Okay, so what we're going to do now is add our steel structure to this model. So far we've got concrete grade beam, piles, pilasters, and caps on these ones, these piers or piles. Now we're going to go and put in some structural steel, and that means we need wide flange beams, open web steel joists, and steel columns. We'll start with the steel columns. Let's load that family in. It'll be from the MHSS hollow structural section column family. We'll look for a square column, 203 by 203 and by 9.5. Place it just outside of your building, and then we'll set the constraints so that it starts at the main floor, but it needs to go through the slab on the main floor. So it'll go actually 230, and then it'll go up to the underside of steel deck, which is up on the roof, with a negative offset as well. So let's go get one. Go to the structure tab, go to the column tool, go to the load family, and these guys have their own folder called structural columns. We're looking for steel MHSS hollow structural section column, that one. It's going to give us a table full of things. You can see rectangles and squares. We're going to go down to the square 203, 203, 9.5, right, that guy. Okay, we're going to bring that in. I already have it in here. So let me just set it down. They're going to be vertical columns, and I'm going to put it on the main floor, and it's going to go up to the underside of roof or the underside of the deck, whatever you might have called that. And just make sure you're placing the right one. So there's the size up there. I'm just going to plunk it down over here. The reason I do that is columns always come in where I don't want them. So now I'm going to select this column and set the constraints. So it's going to start at the main floor. Oops. So I'm going to select it, and I'm going to do the top level first. So the top constraint is the underside of roof, and it'll be negative 100. That'll make sense eventually. And it's going to be down on the main floor, but it needs to go through our main floor slab, and I noticed that my PDF is incorrect, but make it minus 230. Okay, so now it's nice and tall, and if I orbit around, there it is, going from the main floor almost up to the roof. Okay, you can go to your main floor structural plan, and here it is out here. It's a nice hollow structural steel column. If you click on copy and make sure you have a check mark up here on multiple, you can snap to the middle of it. You can do them one by one like I'm going to do, or you could do a row of them. And right now it's attaching itself. It's attaching itself to those columns. It doesn't need to, don't worry about it. So here I'm going to just copy two at a time. From grid line intersection to grid line intersection. All right, those are the ones out in the middle. Oops, there it is over here. And it's going to go all the way around the exterior, and it sits on the grade beam as well. So if you drew like I did, I've got everything on my intersections of my grid lines. So we like to put our structure on the intersections of our grid lines. It's kind of what they're for. My building's not that big, so I can just do it one by one. If you had a giant building, this might get a little bit long, but I'm almost done. So I'm going around the grade beam, and I'm done. Okay, so you take a look at that, and it looks nice. So those columns are 2 stories. Our beams are going to stop and start in between the columns. Okay, now that's what they look like. So now we're going to go and get some steel beams and some open web steel joists. The first set of beams we're going to put to support the second floor. We'll put the beams and the joists, and then we'll copy the whole thing and put that up on the underside of steel deck for the roof. So we only need to do it once, and then copy to the clipboard and paste the line to the second level. So we're going to go to the Canada or the whichever folder you have. We're going to go into structural framing. We're going to go into steel, and we're going to get an open web steel joist from the MK series bar joist rod web family. And we're going to get the 28K12. So let's do that first. Structure. These joists are actually called beams, so we'll just go to the beam folder. Don't panic. We're going to load the family. We need to back up so that we are going into structural framing. We're going into steel, and we want MK series bar joist rod web. Click open, and we want the, I've already forgotten, 28K12. That is the depth of a fairly large joist, 28K12. It's 711 deep, 711 millimeters deep, so just over 2 feet. We're going to bring it in. I've already got it in here, so you'll bring it in. I'm going to hit cancel. And while we are loading things, let's go get some MW wide flange beams. We're going to get 2 sizes, and we do it all in one move. We're going to get a W610 by 101 and a W610 by 82, and we're going to bring those guys in. So on the structure tab, beam tool, load the family, back up a little. These guys are also in structural framing, steel, and they are MW wide flange. So not WWF, but W wide flange. That's the family. And we wanted to get 610 by 101 and 610 by 82. 610 by 101, and I'm going to hold the control key and bring them both in. So I've selected 2 beam sizes, click OK, it brings them in. I've already got them, so you hit override or you just bring them in. I'm going to cancel. Alright, this is going to be the floor system for the second floor. So I'm going to go to my second floor structural plan because it is set up so that I'll see what is going in on the second floor and below it a bit. Alright, if you're following the PDF, we've just brought those things in, and now we're going to place the beams. If you see this picture here, we've made long, skinny structural bays. So the beams are kind of like spines and the joists will be the ribs. This building has 2 spines. So you decide depending on your layout of your structure. The thing you want to know is that when we go to place these beams on the second floor, we want to set the Z offset to -202, and that'll make sense in a minute. So don't worry about that. Just set your Z offset value. So I'm on my second floor structural plan. These are beams, and the larger beam is going down the middle, and the little bit smaller beam is going around the outside. So I'm going to start with that 610 by 82. Set your Z offset up here so they all come in at the same height. And I've got the check mark here on chain. And I've got the placement plane to the second floor, same as this one. Oh, doesn't show it there. So second floor. And I always draw clockwise. So I'm going to click to my grid line intersections And you'll see the beam trims itself back because it's smart. So stop and start. Don't just do one giant long beam because it's stopping and starting and it is attaching to those columns. It's not one solid beam, it's a whole bunch. And yep, it does leave you a little offset because it knows it needs to. Okay, so I'm just going to go back down around the outside. So the outside perimeter beams are a little bit smaller because it's only taking weight from one side, whereas the beams that are going down the middle, like a spine would, is taking weight on two sides. So that one is the bigger one. All right. I have my detail level set to fine so I can see all of the lines for my columns and beams. Beautiful. That is what the perimeter looks like. Okay, so I've got this perimeter beam going all the way around the floor. Now on my floor plan, I'm going to put the middle ones going down in two places, and then the joists will go that way. So all I have to do is go back to the beam, switch the size to the larger one, 610 by 101. The setting for Z offset's the same. And these guys go down the middle, bigger, because there's going to be joists sitting on it on both sides. So it needs to be stronger than the ones that are on the outside. I hit escape and then I started again, so don't overlap your beams there. Sometimes I go a bit too fast. You can rewatch this video if you need to. There. Okay, there's my beam system. I don't put them horizontal because I'm going to have joists there. So a bunch of long vertical bays, we call those, on the second floor. Okay, we don't draw the roof ones yet because we're going to copy those. The last little bit that we want to put in here are our open web steel joists. The size I picked is good for the span. Revit will tell you if you've used too big of a joist for a very small span, then you need to downsize the joist. The seat depth comes with a 63.5 on these joists, so we're going to change it to 100 because that's common here. And we're going to use the beam system tool. We're not going to draw every beam, every joist one by one because that'd be crazy. In this sample PDF, I used a fixed distance of 1500. Yours may not be using this. I'll show you what you have to do to figure that out. But we will set them at an elevation of -102 from the second floor because these guys are sitting on top of the beams. In this sample that you see on this sheet, they're going to be going across in bays. Justification is going to be set to the beginning elevation, and then they're going to go in like that. So this drawing shows you I only had 2 of the bays done, and then I had 3. So we do each bay separately by itself. You can copy all of this to the roof in a minute. All right. Here we go. On this sample, my bays are going to run top to bottom like that. So I go and I get the beam system tool this time. And I'm going to sketch the beam system so it knows what size. And then over in the properties, I'm going to tell it to use the beam type, which is a open web steel joist, MK series bar joist rod web 28K12. My justification is set to the beginning because I want it to figure it out from there. And you'll see I have it set to a fixed distance of 1650. And why, I'll just stop that for a sec. Why I did that is because all of my grids are the same distance apart. If yours aren't, then you'll have to figure that out. 6600 divided by 5 is 1320. Joists can go a little bit wider apart than that. 6600 divided by 4. 1650. That's a good spacing, so I'm going to go with that. You can go to the Can-Am website and find an open web steel joist. But anyway, okay, 1650. That's how I came to that decision. So back to the beam system tool. Sketching the beam system. I'm going to use the rectangle tool. I've set my fixed spacing. I have the justification at the beginning, and I've set the elevation of these guys to come in at -102. Get the rectangle, and just like everything, I use my grid line intersection that up to the top of that bay. Before you hit the green check mark, you want to make sure these two little pink lines are going in the direction you want the joists to go. That's called the beam direction. You can change it if they're going the wrong way, but mine are good. Spacing, everything's good. When I click the green check mark, beautiful. So what it did, there was the beginning, and then it went blop, 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 and because mine were all the same, I could do it in one big bay. If yours is kind of a different spacing, you might have to do a couple of your bays with a different spacing. I can't tell you exactly what your spacing will be because I don't know what how far your beams are, your grid lines. Okay, super easy. You just do this. You try and do this in bays as much as you can. Once you have all the settings set, you just have to sketch out where you want that beam system to go. Boom. Okay, there we go. Now I have all my floor joists. If I zoom in on this, my column is hanging off of that, or the beam is hanging off the column, and the joists are sitting on the beams. I forgot something, but I think I already did it and didn't show you. If I select one of my joists, I just want to check in the family, and yours will change itself for all of them if you check. You want the seat depth to be 100. So if you select one and you change it to 100 from 63.5, they'll all change. So that's good. Make your seat depth 100. Okay, that's the height. This thing is called the seat. So that's the height of that. If I look at my second floor plan, I've got a section here, so I'm going to take a peek. I'm going to zoom in on that. There's my beam. There's a beam in the distance, and there's my joist. It's just hiding behind that column, and it is sitting where it should. That's a bad place. I'm going to pull that guy to here, and then you'll see it better. Perfect. Joists sitting on beams hanging off of columns. All right, easy peasy. Now all we got to do is put these guys up to the roof. And the only thing different about the roof from the second floor assembly is that those joists, instead of being down 100 from the down 102 from the level marker, I want them equal right at the level marker for the roof, the underside of the roof. So we'll copy them and then we'll just adjust them. So do this in a 3D view, not in a section, because in a section you'd only be seeing part of the building. So I'm looking at this in 3D and I'm kind of getting almost straight on. And then if I click and hold left to right, I'm only catching the things that I'm covering completely. So I've got all of those beams and joists. See, they're all blue. I'm going to copy to my clipboard. I'm going to paste aligned to selected levels, and it'll say what levels, and I want it to go up to my underside of roof or underside of steel deck, whatever I called it. Click OK. Nice. Now if I look at this drawing, I'm going to go look at that section. They came in just like they were on the second floor. They were down 102. And I need to move them right up to that level marker. Hello, me again. Okay, so I'm just going to add this on to the end of that video. I'm just going to move those joists up so they're sitting properly. So as you can see what I'm doing, I'm just selecting one of the bays, filtering out the girders and the beam systems, so I'm only holding on to the joists. Click OK. And over in the properties, you'll see the Z offset was -102, and I just want to make it 0. Hit enter, and now they're all happily sitting on top of the beams. I already did this one, so I just need to do it one more time. You could probably do it all at once, but I did it in chunks. Same thing, filter out everything but the joists. That way it shows up in the properties and you make it 0. And now that is what you want to see. Okay, whoop, save your project, good idea. Okay, so that is how you get that all done.